Hello everybody, my name is Rochelle and I'm here from TBA Law for Facebook Live. As I'm sure you all understand, once a month we do a full Facebook Live presentation for your enjoyment, and today you've got me. We're talking about business, which is going to be a bit of fun. So, if you want to go into business, what do you need to know, what do you need to do, and how do you do it? So let's look at the legal side of things. Firstly, I have to say, speak to an accountant or a financial advisor as well. Accountants love this stuff, and they will be able to tell you all the benefits and the advantages and disadvantages and whatever of tax and what you need to do for GST and all that thing. So have a very good relationship with your accountant. So that's your first thing. Secondly, have a really good relationship with your lawyer, because we're going to be the ones that are drafting many documents that are going to be relied upon by you into the future and into the success of your business. So let's start with just looking at a few different business structures. So business structures is the way that you set your business up, and there's a few different ways to do that. There's no right structure, there's no wrong structure. It really just depends on what you want out of your business, how big your business is going to be, and this is something you can think about whether or not you're buying a business or whether you're going to set one up from scratch. So if you wanted to start a business yourself, from the very start, you'll be setting this sort of thing up, as opposed to buying a business that's already established. And we'll get to that in a little while. So what we'll talk about now is how you can set your business up. So you can set your business up a few different ways. If it's just you, and you're just wanting to set up a business, you can set it up as a sole trader. Sole traders are really, really simple. And in this Facebook Live, we're going to use the example of a specific business to make it a little bit easier. So we are going to set up a business called Dog with a Bone. And at Dog with a Bone, we are going to sell antique collectibles, new collectibles, figurines, everything you can think about to do with collectibles, to do with dogs. Perfect. So we're going to be looking at legislation, we're going to be looking at consumer law, and then we're going to look at what happens if we want to extend our business to include maybe a cafe as well. So then we're just going to look at some permits for if you're looking at food. So we're going to use that example this time, but this can be across the board for whatever business you're liking. I like to use an example to illustrate a point. So that's what we're going to do. So a sole trader example. Rochelle Manderson wants to set up her business Dog with a Bone. It's only going to start small, it's only going to be a few little things, it's not going to be bringing in a lot of money at this point, we're just going to see how it goes. So we want something really simple, we want something really straightforward and quite quick, and not too expensive to set up. So then you've got a sole trader is your perfect option. Remember, sole traders, all you really need to do is get your business name. So you get your ABN, get your business name. So you register your business name, and then you're a sole trader. So therefore, you'd go Rochelle Manderson, trading as Dog with a Bone. Hello Rosa, nice to see you. So then you've got your sole trader. Now, sole traders are great because any income you make just comes into your income, you do one tax return and all that sort of thing. It's good for capital gains, etc., etc., etc. if you're buying property, although in our example, we're probably not really going to do that. But if we talk a little bit about asset protection, we've got a few issues there, because remember, you will be personally liable for anything that happens in your business. So what we mean by that, and we'll get into this more as we get into more complex business structures, but what we mean by this is we mean that if something happens to your business, you're on the hook, yeah? So if you're on the hook, you can be sued personally, and if you're sued personally, you can therefore find yourself in some hot water. So you can then lose a personal asset like your house, so you're on the hook. So you don't have much protection there at all, and you also don't have really anything. Well, there's nothing to pass on. The business is you. So that's. But if you're just wanting to start out, as long as you're aware of that, very, very quick, easy, and cheap to set up. So that's a good option in that situation. So that's a sole trader. But what happens if Rochelle Manderson is best friends with Michelle Anderson? We want to set this up as a partnership because we both love our dogs. So we're going to set up Dog with a Bone as a partnership. This is our second structure. Now our second structure, partnerships are quite good. So you've got, in a partnership, you've got, just one sec. All right, yes, Rosa, we will have a quick chat about insurance. So essentially whatever you're setting up as your business, you will want your insurance to cover you so that you can, yes, absolutely. And I assume you're talking about your insurance with regard to your liability as a sole trader, etc., etc. Yeah, you want whatever insurances you need. Yes, you are going to want to do that, and that will offer you some protection. Remember that you could also have a premium, and also you can still be sued in person even if you have insurance. But insurance may cover that, but you'll have to be very careful with your policy as well. So that's on insurance. Anyhow, so if we go back to where were we? Yes, partnership. So Rochelle Manderson and Michelle Manderson is setting up Dog with a Bone as a partnership. Very, very important if you're setting up a partnership that you have a partnership agreement. And this is where you need to love your lawyer, because your lawyer is going to be the person that does your partnership agreement, and that agreement is going to dictate what happens in certain situations. Because at the moment, Rochelle and Michelle just think nothing's going to go wrong because we're best friends. Of course nothing's going to go wrong, but things do go wrong, trust us, they do. So you want things in writing. So get your partnership agreement and make sure that you have in that agreement, income split equally, those sort of things. What happens if somebody has to leave the partnership? What happens if somebody, becomes ill or passes away? What happens to the partnership then? Does it all go to the other partner, or is there any sort of succession going on here? So this is where you want a good relationship with your lawyer, and this, if you've got a partnership, this is where you probably should also be talking succession planning with your lawyer, which is, I don't really want to go into succession planning in this discussion. I want to focus more on the business side of things, but it is something that you do need to sort of keep in the back of your mind. So that's your partnership agreement. Now with a partnership, again, you and your partner are on the hook, because it's the partnership will do a tax return, you'll do your tax return, and it'll form part of your income. So you can be still held personally liable if something goes wrong, and that's the other thing that you've really got to remember. Remember, the sole trader or a partnership, you can still be liable. And Rosie, yes, definitely you want your insurances, but you wouldn't want to just rely on that. And if you see any solicitor's going to be telling you, the first thing they're going to be telling you about is limited liability and your liability. So that's really, really important to know. So we don't have a lot of time, so I'll continue on with a way around that. A way around that is, if you've got something a bit more complex, your business might be a bit more complex. You might have a larger turnover, those sort of things. You might be owning more assets. Then you can look at other things. So you can look at things like companies. Now we all understand companies, right? We go, yeah, I know a company. Yeah. There's things to know about companies. Companies are registered with ASIC, so they cost a little bit more money, and you need to be able to set them up. In years gone by, you used to be able to go into a solicitor's office and they would have, companies on the shelf that were just about ready to pull off and set up for you. We don't really need to do that now because a lot of it is done online, so it's nowhere near as time consuming as it used to be. But with a company, essentially, a company is a separate legal entity, and this is where we want to get to. So this is a really important distinction to make. So if you can imagine, you've got Rochelle sitting here. Rochelle wants to set up a company. So Rochelle sets up dogwiththebone.com, Dog with the Bone Proprietary Limited. We want to set that up. So I'm here, the law would see me as Rochelle, and then the law will see Dog with the Bone Proprietary Limited as another entity, as another, not person, but another thing, separate. We're separate. So that means that anything within the company stays in the company, and the company is run by directors. Company is run by directors for the benefit of its shareholders, and then you can get payment of shareholder dividends. So that's a little bit different to where your sole trader is running their business and their income is forming part of their own personal income. In this case, the company is being run by the director and the shareholders are receiving dividends from their shares. So the big advantage to a company is you have what we call limited liability. So because the company is seen as a separate entity, the law is going to say, if something goes wrong with the company, the law is going to say Rochelle's not personally liable because it's Dog with a Bone Proprietary Limited that's been sued, say. So essentially that's what you're looking at. Now, if Rochelle as the director has done something wrong, if I've engaged in fraud, if I've traded while insolvent, if I've done a few of those things, breached some of those aspects of the Corporations Act, which again, we don't have time to go into that in this Facebook Live, but can occur. That's what we call piercing the veil, which means that someone can then sue the director personally if they've done that sort of wrongdoing. But in most cases, if that hasn't happened, debts of the company stay in the company. So you've got some asset protection there. But the downside, of course, is you've got some downsides with your setting up costs are a bit more expensive, and you do have a little bit more onerous reporting, etc., and you've got to renew. You got to renew with ASIC each year for your company and those sort of things, and you do have reporting that you need to do, and you do need to have a good relationship again with your accountant with regard to this, because they can be telling you about all those sort of payments and that. You've got some few capital gains issues and stuff like that. Again, I really don't want to get bogged down in the figures, because that can become dry, and who wants something dry and boring on a Friday morning? I don't. So just be aware of those things. But companies do offer that bit more protection, and so they're a little bit more complex. But if you've got something bigger than just, for example, we're starting to trade all these collectibles from all over the world, and we're raking in about $100,000 a year, we're not going to want that as a sole trader. We're going to want to look at putting that in something more solid and protecting those assets. So a company is a very good structure when it comes to that. Which means with the last two structures, which I do want to try and race through, so we can also get on to buying and selling businesses and leases, which are also very, very important in this area. So your other options is trusts. So you've got unit trusts, you've got discretionary trusts, and you've got hybrid trusts. I'm not even going to talk about hybrid trusts. Aside, my advice is in the majority of cases, don't do them. If you want to do trust, you do your unit trust or you do discretionary trust. So what's that? Right. Trusts is where we get really excited as lawyers, because trusts is where, again, it's almost like a legal construct, almost like a bit like a company, but so just sort of think outside the box for a minute. A trust is where a trustee holds property or assets in trust for another person, for a beneficiary. So you've got your trustee that's essentially running things, and your trustee can be an individual, your trustee can be a company. So your trustee is running things for the benefit of the beneficiaries, and they're holding your assets and your property, etc., on trust. So in this case, in our example, it would either be Dog with a Bone Proprietary Limited as trustees for Dog with a Bone, or you could go Dog with a Bone, Rochelle Manderson as trustee for Dog with a Bone, something like that. So your unit trust is quite structured. In any trust, you're going to have a trust deed. So again, you're going to have a really good relationship with your lawyer to make sure that what you've got in your trust deed is what you want. So you've got your unit trust set up. You've got beneficiaries. Your beneficiaries will own units. So we're in a company, they'll own shares. Here we own units, and there's there's payments of the units. So it's a bit like dividends for the shares, your payments from the units. So you get that amount. So that's a unit trust is a really good setup if you've got a more complex situation, and that's a business structure that if you're interested in those sort of things, definitely you want to speak to your lawyer speak to your accountant, speak to your lawyer about the pros and cons of your tax benefits of those sort of structures, and whether or not you have a company as being the trustee as well. And then you've got your discretionary trust, which is where in a unit trust, it's in the trust deed of what the unit holders are paid from the income of the trust. In your discretionary trust, it's at the discretion of the trustee of what is paid out. So it could only be paid out to one beneficiary, it could be paid out to everyone, it could be paid out to no one for a year. So you've got a lot more flexibility there if you're into sort of, with income and tax and all those sort of things, and that's where this can be a benefit. But again, a discretionary trust, usually you do that in like a family situation. We wouldn't recommend you doing those sort of things if you're just sort of, business partners or friends or that sort of things, because again, there's room for issues coming in there. So none of these structures are absolutely perfect or wrong. it really depends on your situation and your business. But if you understand the basic understanding of those sort of things, then you're on a good footing for knowing where to go to next. And something you can do is you can have an appointment with your accountant, and you can have an appointment with your lawyer, and you can say to them, this is the business I'm wanting to set up, and this is what I think is going to be the income, and this is, so I'm going to be importing figurines from China, and I'm going to be selling them in this store, and I'm going to have a chain set up where I'm going to have employees, etc. And that opens up some new things. So again, you could talk all day on this topic and still not cover everything, but this is what I'm trying to keep everything sort of as much as I can for you. Rosa, a family trust is a discretionary trust. It's another term for it. So when I discuss discretionary trust, yes, it's also known as a family trust. Yeah? Okay. So there are business structures. So what next? Okay, we've got our business structures. We might be setting up our own business, or we might be buying a business that's already established, in which case you're going to need to know who's going to be the entity to buy that business. So if, for example, you're going to buy a business, you want to be looking at their income, you want to be looking at their setup, their structures and all those sort of things, and go, right, what structure is going to be right for me? You don't want a sole trader buying a business that's already bringing in $150,000 a year. So be aware of those sort of things. If you're looking to buy a business, or even if you're looking to sell a business, you're going to be looking at a few different things. You're going to be given an outline of the income and assets of the business, and it's almost like for the lay people, it's almost like your vendor statement for buying and selling businesses. You can buy a business or sell a business to a business broker. Some agents will do it, or you can do something as simple as a sign in a window. It depends what you really want to do. Sometimes you might not have an agent involved. So those are the sort of things that you're looking at. But you have that statement, so you already know before you purchase the business, you already know what sort of income they're looking at, what sort of money you're looking at, and that'll help you with your structure. Right. So once you've done that, you need to nut out your contract of sale, and this is where you need to get really friendly with your lawyer, because they're going to just get so excited about this stuff, and they're going to draft you up a really good contract. So they'll be looking at your contract, they'll be revising your contract, they'll be discussing with the vendor, or if you are the vendor or the purchaser, with what's required, and we're going to be going from that. And then you need to look at how much you're paying for the business and those sort of things. A few little protections if you're buying a business, and also something to be aware of if you're selling a business, because we also want to give you a few pointers on what to look for just to protect yourself. A bit like we talk about limited liability, this will also protect a few little protections for you. So you'll see in your contract of sale, you should see a restraint of trade. Restraint of trade is very important. It's going to prevent the person that's selling the business from selling you the business, and you pay all this money for the business and you start operating the business, and then the seller opens up the same business down the street. And so people, they're not necessarily attached to the building that you're in or whatever it might be, or the name you're trading under, they're attached to the person, so they're going to go down the street. And so your business is probably going to fizzle because you've suddenly got this competition down the street that's already established. So restraint of trade will protect that for you. You also want to look at things like how much you're paying for goodwill. Again, let's take a step back. If you're looking at goodwill, you're looking at basically the difference in price between the assets of the business and the price of buying the business. And the goodwill is essentially a legal term that is the word of mouth, the customers, the fact that the business is already running, the fact that the business already has customers, it also has a bit of a loyal following, those sort of things. People, I'm sure you all understand, there's businesses and there's shops that you yourself will like to go into, and you go back and you're a repeat customer, those sort of things. That's the sort of thing we're looking at for goodwill. So look at all of those sort of things. And if you're selling a business, that's the sort of thing you should be thinking about when you're looking at price and those sort of things as well. So selling a business, buying a business, another way to get involved. Either way, you still need to know what your structure is going to be, because even if you're buying a business from, say, someone that's operating as a company, you might prefer to operate that as a unit trust or something like that. So know your structures, know your business. Whatever business you're getting into, know your legislation, know your requirements. So for example, Dog with a Bone, I decide, right, I'm going to make this a cafe as well. So it's like a cafe and gift shop. So, increase my income, and people come in, they get a coffee, they see the figurines on the wall and the paintings, and they go, oh, I might buy that. So, then you're going to suddenly start looking, you're going to need other things to happen. So you're going to need permits. So you need to know what permits you need. Generally speaking, this goes through council. So if you're serving alcohol, you're going to need a license for that. Gambling, obviously, you need a license for that, and that's all done through Victorian gambling regulations. If you're going to be serving food, you're going to need a food handling or somebody involved running it that's got food handling. You're going to need a food premises permit, and they're generally available from your council. Many councils, if you want to put a sign out the front, you're going to need a permit for that. So make sure that you know what's required of those sort of things, so that you can make sure you've got your permits and you've got your correct permits, so that you, legally speaking, your business is up and running. Also be aware of consumer law. I love consumer law. We all love consumer law. If you're selling things, know what your rights and responsibilities are, and also the rights and responsibilities of the customer, because you're going to save yourself a lot of issues and lawyers' expenses and that if you know when someone comes in whether or not they're entitled to a refund or not. I would love to talk consumer law as well, but we're really running out of time for this Facebook Live, so we're going to have to put that, but maybe the next Facebook Live you'll see me talking consumer law. We'll see. So I just want to move on quickly to cover leases and bank guarantees before we finish up, because they're also really important when you're talking about business. So you've got your business, you've set it up or you've bought it, but you're going to need somewhere to run your business. Now, yes, you could run your business from a property that you own, but very often you might be leasing. So if you're buying a business or if you're selling a business, something you need to be aware of with leases. Leases get assigned or transferred. Technically it's called assignment of lease, but it's transferring the lease from the old owner to the new owner. And the landlord has to be involved in that as well. So if you're setting up your own business, you can then go to your estate agent. You can say, I want to lease this building in this street. The landlord works it out. The lawyers do up your lease, and it's all good. And be guided by your lawyer in what you're responsible for in that lease, because once you've got a lease, you really can't get out of it. You're on the hook. So if your business fizzles in 6 months and your lease is for 5 years, you're locked in for 5 years. So make sure you know what you're signing up for your lease. Similarly, if you're getting a lease transferred to you, the landlord has to consent to that. So consent means they have to approve it. They have to say, yeah, it's okay. We're going to accept this new person. And you can understand that, because if someone's coming in, a new person's coming in, the landlord wants to make sure that this new person's going to be able to pay their rent, and they're going to know how to run their business. Then they're going to look after the premises, because if they don't, the landlord could end up with a lot of losses themselves. So the landlord cannot unreasonably withhold the consent, but they can ask for some things to make sure to give that consent. So they might ask for bank statements, they might ask for references from past landlords that this person's rented from or this company's rented from, and that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly what you would expect. So, and you do need to give that to them. Now, remember, if you are selling the business, if you are transferring the lease to somebody else, you will be responsible for the reasonable costs of the landlord doing their consents. Yeah, so that can be anything up to about $1,000 ish with solicitors, because the landlord might go through their solicitor, and the solicitors, work with the purchaser, and they get their consent. So it could be, yeah. So you just need to know that you could be up for a little bit extra. So be aware of that when you're factoring in your own budget. So then when you've got your lease, if you're not sure if your business is really going to take off, might be worth doing maybe a year with options. So again, we're running out of time, so I'm going to race through this. But with a lease, you've got your term of the lease, and then you've got your options. So Your term of the lease could be 1 year, it could be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 25 years. Your first term. So if you're not too sure, maybe make that first term 1 year or 2 years so you're not locked in for too long. But have options after that. You then might want 2 further options of 5 years. So then you've got 12 years. So as long as you renew your options, you can keep on trading, and if your business really takes off, that's great. But if your business is fizzling a bit, you're not locked into a 5-year lease, and 1 year in, you want to give it away, and you're stuck with this lease that you're paying for 5 years. So that's something to be aware of. If you're buying a business already, you're already going to have that in the lease. So if you need it varied, you can request to have it varied, and you do a transfer and variation of lease. The landlord doesn't have to agree to that, of course, but you can always ask those sort of things if that's going to be more suitable for you. But again, if you're buying a business, hopefully you've done a bit of due diligence, you've got a bit more of an idea about what you are buying, what the income is, and hopefully you're not going to be fizzling out in 12 months because you've bought this and you put a lot of thought and time and money into this business. So that is that on leases. So just quickly before we wrap up, I just want to quickly mention guarantor, because it all sounds hunky-dory dandy and go, yeah, great, company or trust, we've got limited liability, we're protected, we can't lose our house, we can't lose our assets, it's perfect, great, brilliant, let's do that. But then you go into the bank for a loan or something along those lines, and the company is the one that is getting the finance or whatever it might be. You can bet your bottom dollar the bank is going to want a personal guarantee from, usually it's a director, that they will guarantee the loan. So all of a sudden the bank has been able to go and cut straight through that limited liability, and you're back on the hook. So that's something that you do have to be aware of. If you guarantee any sort of finance, if you guarantee anything and the company defaults, you're going to be personally liable. So even though technically companies are meant to be able to have the limited liability, and especially if you're looking at a smaller company, you might be looking at a husband and wife, or a family company, or a small company where you might only have 2 directors and they are the shareholders or something, so it's small. You pretty much lost your as far as getting finance or those sort of things, they've cut right through that attraction, that advantage to that business structure. So also just be aware of what's happening if you're guaranteeing documents to do with your business and what that's going to mean for your own personal liability in that business. So that brings us to the end of our Facebook Live. We've been going now for around 30 minutes, and I've tried to cram as much as possible into this, just to give you a brief outline of basic business structures, of starting a business, of buying a business, of what's involved in leasing, and what are some of the pitfalls that you can have, and what's some of the ways you can try to prevent pitfalls happening, because prevention is always better than cure. So if you can stop things from happening. So quick rundown, things like trust deeds and partnership agreements, very important for preventing future issues. Companies, etc., have a good relationship with your accountant. Leases, be aware of what you're signing up to when you're signing up to a lease, because you're going to be locked into that lease, especially a commercial lease. So there's very few ways you can get out of a lease if your business just fizzles. So be aware of what's happening with that, and yes, and also be aware of any time you're being asked to guarantee something. All right, Rosa, we've just got one more question. Yeah, absolutely. You'd be most welcome to give us a call, Rosa. We'll be able to help you with that. Rosa just asked us about setting up a family trust with a company. So what that would be you'd have your company as trustee for your beneficiaries. It would most likely be family trust would be discretionary trust, so it'll be all in the trust deed, and so that's very, very important. And important to know that. So yeah, absolutely. You can absolutely give us a call at our office, and we'll be happy to chat with you about that. That is You can find all our contact details on our website, tbalaw.com.au. Very friendly, very easy to navigate. You'll find all sorts of little things on there, including information about business structures and those sort of things. So this Facebook Live is going to be maintained as a video, so you're going to be able to go back and watch it if you like, and you're also going to be able to use those resources. Also, check out our Facebook page for further resources on. Okay, very good. Yeah, Rose, a good option. That's a very good step up, and that's often what you'll see happening. Is that when you find your business is improving and those sort of things, and you want to then step up to something a bit more complex, because as you've grown your business, you've outgrown, say, your sole trader, you've outgrown that, and you need to step into something. So yeah, no, that would certainly be something that we'll be able to help you with. So yeah, so you're going to be able to also make use of all those sort of resources. They're all on our website. They're all free to have a look at, and they'll give you a bit of a basic understanding. But either way, then it's really a good idea to have a chat to your accountant and your lawyer to actually get things going. But I hope I've been able to give you a brief overview of some of the things and just a few pitfalls to look out for when you're in this, if you're starting out a business, or even to another extent if you're starting a business, what's required. So best of luck with everything, and I've now gone over time, so I must sign off, but I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a beautiful weekend, and if you're watching this not live, and if you're watching it at a later date and a different day, have a lovely rest of the day. And we are most happy to take your call, or if you'd like to schedule any sort of appointment with us to discuss anything further, we are very happy to help you with any of those things. But otherwise, this is just a little bit of advice for you and a little bit of entertainment on this lovely Friday morning. So thank you for watching, and we look forward to hearing some of you anytime soon. If you see anybody, if you're watching this or if you're watching this back later and you know somebody that would benefit from this information, feel free to tag them down in the comments, and that they'll then be able to watch the video. So best of luck with it all, and have a great day.